The 2019-20 college hockey season begins in just a couple of days. Now that it is officially the month of October, I take a look at what the season will have for the Eastern teams. We'll do the Western teams tomorrow. We'll take a look at the media and coaches polls, see where I think everything will shake out. We take a look at some of the stories that have been unfolding, and we get into answering a couple of questions that I've had posed to me. All that and more on the Season 4 opening edition of Puck University. Slightly more produced introduction, and that will be in all of the episodes moving forward for the remainder of the season, which we'll be doing these once a week, bare minimum. This opening week will be a slight exception. We'll be doing 2 editions of it. This episode, which we are recording in the afternoon on a rainy Wednesday, October the 2nd, Anno Domini 2019, in anticipation of the 2019-2020 college hockey season. I apologize in the greatest of force for not getting this up sooner. My family's had some stuff going on. I've had some work stuff going on. And also, this show has obviously gone through some changes over the last year. Not many ones that we ever wanted to. So I apologize for getting this up a little bit later for doing this a little bit later than I wanted to. I'm here now, and the college hockey season arrives on October the 5th, which is Saturday and Sunday. Sunday's the 6th. So this is wildly exciting. I think we're in for a cool new season. And in truth, I have no idea what to... Well, I have one thing that I expect, and I'm just going to say what I expect before... I'll expound on it more in the next edition. Minnesota Duluth is the best program, and they should be wild favorites for the national championship. And we'll talk more about that in the Western edition of this show, which I will be recording tomorrow. So yeah, that's how we're going to roll with that. And so let's talk about all of the stuff going on East, and let's start with what is bluntly the most changed conference, which is Hockey East. And dude, I don't know what to make of this conference this year. Let's start with explaining what the polls look like. For the first, there's a few things that everybody agrees on, which I have a slight argument against one of the things that I'm seeing. But let's deal with the stuff that pretty much everyone agrees on. The media poll and the Hockey East Online coaches poll have the bottom 3 teams, the bottom 7 teams, all being the same and in the same order. They are Merrimack at 11, Vermont at 10, UConn at 9, at 8, New Hampshire at 7, and also they both have UMass Lowell and Boston University and Northeastern at there's actually a lot of similarity between these polls in the bottom parts of it, or in the bottom to middle parts of it. Let's just get the easy things out of the way first. Merrimack and UVM are at the bottom of these polls. Merrimack has 11 points in the coaches poll, which is 8 behind UVM, and Merrimack has 20 points in the media poll compared to only 43 on the UVM side of things. And what's interesting also is that with that UVM marker also comes the caveat of, dude, Stefanos Lekis is amazing, which, yeah, he is. He's unreal in that goaltending spot. I mean, last season, he played 99.3% of his team's games. He put up a .930 save percentage, and the only reason his goals against average was up is because the Vermont defense... Dude, I don't want to say many bad things about Coach Sneddon and about that program, and also they're getting a renovated building. They're not getting a new building. They're still going to call Gutterson Fieldhouse home, which is great. I love that place. I love those fans. The people show up to those games, and it's beautiful that they do, because that is a fun program. That's a fun program, and it's a fun team, and I also have family ties to that place. My dad actually grew up in Burlington, Vermont. Or, excuse me, no, he didn't grow up in Burlington. He grew up in Adamant, Vermont, which is a small town just a little bit north of Montpelier, and he went to Burlington regularly. He actually has memories of going to the first ever Ben & Jerry's, which was built out of an old gas station in Burlington. And he also had this memory of going to Gutterson Fieldhouse when he, in the summertime of 74, he went skiing. He went skiing. No, he went skating at Gutterson because he played high school hockey. And so he went, he showed up, and he skated and did exactly what you would normally do. And when he got in his car to drive on back, he listened to President Nixon's resigning of the Oval Office, which was the night of August 8th, 1974. So that place does have some significance for him, I'm sure, and it's quite a kind of a crazy story that he gets to talk about as well. So I have a lot of respect for Coach Sneddon and the fact that he did a lot of winning. He was a winning player at Harvard. He won a national championship in '89, and he's one of the winninger coaches in that program. He led him to a Frozen Four in 2009. I was about to say not that long ago, but that's a decade since. Wow, I'm old. And I really don't want to say anything bad about them, but dude, I'm not really. Partly with also no Jake Massey on this team because he left in the summertime to go sign in the pros. Boy, I don't see a lot on this UVM team to make them that impressive, if I'm being anything near honest. I know that Lekas is going to give you an incredible performance out of that net, and he's going to steal games like nobody's business, and I really, really wish for his sake that UVM puts up a good performance in front of him. But I'm sorry, Steph. Steph, I'm just going to call you Steph for short. I'm really sorry, dude, but I don't see that talent in front of you. I'm sorry, dude. And Merrimack, that Merrimack program, which has not a lot of resources to it compared to the titans of the other conferences, that's just really, it's a sad thing to see when you know a program. I do take some bit of umbrage with the UConn ranking only being at number 9 because, dude, this UConn team is a lot better, I think, than its ranking shows, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put a scare into people as we go along because, first off, Mike Cavanaugh is underratedly one of the best coaches that college hockey has to offer. Let's just start with he's been through every single little thing that you could have been. As an assistant coach at BC, he's done about everything you could possibly hope for. And it's really pretty remarkable the fact he has directed a lot of his recruiting towards international players. And I think smartly, because he's recruited some players who are really, really fun to watch. Worth noting off the bat that they did lose their goaltender Adam Huska to the Rangers, so have fun playing. Actually, he's playing, I think he's on the roster for the Hartford Wolfpack, so he's actually in the same building as this guy, just across the hall. But Tomasz Vomaka is a quality player, 6'3", so he's tall, he can fill the zone, he can cover the crease, he can do everything you want to. So I don't think there's going to be much of a drop-off from Huska to Vomaka being the full-time starter. And then there's other players on this roster who are, I mean, if I'm going to start with skill players, watch for Ruslan Iskakov to be just a dynamo. There were some points last year where he would just dazzle you skating. I don't think he had all of his skills quite put together yet. He's a second-round draft pick by the Islanders. He put up some skating performances that were just dazzling. I hope for his sake that he's able to handle the physical toll of it because he took some hits last year. He took one against Quinnipiac, which was just painful. But In 32 games, he put up 21 points, he had 6 goals, and he had 15 assists. I mean, he's a real talented skater. He can pass it, he can shoot it. And there's other guys up front who I really, really like. I mean, I don't think Brian Regali is going to be a big-time scorer, but I really like watching him play. Same kind of thing with goodness, who am I? They picked up this guy Vladislav Firstov, who I've only seen a little bit of tape of, but I like what I've seen. He's from Yaroslavl, Russia. I really like Alexander Pyasov, who's been a dynamo on that power play for a couple of years now, and he's really come into his own. This Jan Kuznetsov kid, again, only seen a little bit of tape from him, but he's on the blue line, and he's 6'4" and 200, so... And Adam Karashik just standing right next to him on that blue line, 6 flat, 200. This is not a small team. This is not a... And Roman Kinel, by the way, 6'2" as well on that blue line. So there are some smaller players up front, but this isn't a UConn team that's lacking in size. This is probably the most talented team that they've had since making the jump to Hockey East. Don't sleep on UConn this year. Really, don't sleep on UConn this year. I really do think that they could turn some heads and draw some attention. I mean, Johnny Evans also a player to keep your eyes open for. Joachim Kondelik he looked great. And he's bulked up, 6'5", 230. That dude can take some punishment. That dude can pass it wonderfully. The Czech Republic player. I'm not going to try and pronounce his hometown. He only missed one game to play in the World Juniors. He had 4 goals and 22 assists for 26 points in 33 games as a freshman. So I really like this kid. I really like this. I really like some of those guys that they have up front. I honestly don't see a lot to dislike about this unit. I think it's a bit of a challenge to see where exactly they fit, because some of the top units in the conference are really, really, really scary, but I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys, these Huskies, make a fight and make some headway. So yeah, don't look past the University of Connecticut Huskies. Maine, meanwhile, I know Jeremy Swayman's a beast. That's kind of it, honestly. It's a little bit of a similar situation to what UVM has, except there is no disrespect to UVM. There's a little bit more historical clout that Maine carries with the multiple national championships and the dynasty that they ran in the 90s and the early thousands. And also there's players like Mitchell Fossier still there up front, and Jacob Smich-Vestrup. I really hope I got your name right, from Charlotteland in Denmark. Dude, there's a lot of pronunciations here which are just a bit complicated to try and pull off here. There's some real players. There's some real players on this main team. J.D. Greenway, who is Jordan Greenway's brother, is on this roster as a defenseman. Patrick Shea still there. By the way, go follow Patrick Shea on YouTube. He does a video blogging channel. It's really fun, and he's quite enjoyable to watch. So yeah, this is your public service thing. Go and watch Patrick Shea. Edwards Trailmax is a good player. Emil Westerlund is a good player. But truthfully, I think the only one who really makes your eyes pop in a lot of ways is Jeremy Swayman, who I wouldn't be surprised if he's a junior now. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being his last season in Orono, because I think that the Bruins are gonna see where he is at the end of this year, and if he develops well enough, which I think he will, then I wouldn't be surprised if the Bruins decide to bring him to the pros after this year and at least have him be in Providence for a little bit and then build him to at least being the backup. I don't know exactly where Tuukka is in his tenure that he has remaining as a pro, but he's still a really good goalkeeper. So unless he leaves in like a contract dispute or something, I could see him being around for a while. So I think Swayman should at least see some time as a backup goalkeeper for the Bruins in not terribly short order. So don't be surprised if he ends up moving on after this year. So the read on Maine, good players, good talent. The people in Orono will support them. Goaltender's the best piece, which I'm not sure. I don't know if at the college level your goaltender can be your best player and you can win. Like, he can't clearly be your most talented player and win, if that makes much sense. I think he can play the best because he can be asked to, and he has to be asked to steal a game or two every so often, but it can't be a Vermont or Maine situation where this guy is so clearly your most talented player, and you end up swamping yourself as a result of all that, which actually brings me pretty smoothly into UNH, who ranks seventh in both the coaches and the media poll, and I don't know exactly what to make out of this team if I'm being realistic, because I really like Mike Robinson in net. I like Robinson a bit more than Ty Taylor, mostly because hot diggity Robinson nearly stole that game in UMass to start their playoff series. He almost ripped him right off. It would have been beautiful to watch, but that didn't end up happening. And then on the back end, I really, really like this group of defensemen that they have. Max Gilden and Benson Mounds. By the way, Gilden was voted to the preseason all-conference team, as well he should have been. He's wicked. He's got size, he's got range, he's got a shot. And I got to talk to Anthony Wise, the captain of the team. By the way, I really like Anthony Wise. He is, I'll make the same offer to you. I'll buy you a fedora. I'm not going to give you mine, but I'll buy you a hat so that you can wear it around at some points and outstyle these people like nobody's business. Apparently people like that stuff. I really like this dude. I mean, he's a sizable character as well. And I think Benton Maz, they said some interesting things about Benton. Namely, dude, you got to shoot that puck more. And he is a defensive-minded player, number 28. But they keep telling me, and I don't disagree with them. I think I certainly buy it, that this dude has a cannon if he's able to unlock it and if he's able to use it. So I think just the talent on that blue line, I think they have something there. I think UNH has something on that back end. I just hope they're able really to use it. I like Angus Crookshank as well up front. I think he's a feisty player. I like Eric Esposito and Justin Fragona for kind of similar reasons. I think they're really tough players who are unafraid of jumping into a play and making something out of it. I like how fast Koei Sato is. He played for the Japanese national team fairly recently and got to spend some time playing, and God, I wonder if his hands will ever catch up to his feet, because he's so fast. Dude, Koei Sato is so fast. His hands haven't caught up with his skates, and for his sake, that really has to change. Patrick Grasso, and Charlie Kelleher, there are a bunch of tough, annoying players, and I mean that in the best way. I'm not saying that as an insult. I mean that they are just tough little players. At least their forwards. Their defensemen really don't lack size. So I don't see a reason that UNH can't push for one of these higher spots, particularly if a team ahead of them falters and runs into trouble. Namely, UMass, Lowell, and BU. How do I want to deal with this? Let's start with UMass Lowell first, because man, I remember when UMass Lowell was a dominant force. I remember when UMass Lowell ran the show. Back in my day, okay, it wasn't that long ago. It was only, oh my God, it was only 2 seasons ago, the 2017 season, 2 calendar years ago from now, when they were a Frozen Four team, and I'll go to my dying days saying that Lowell team in 17 was a Frozen Four team. I'm sorry to bring up old bad stuff, any of you guys. Anywho, it was such a young unit last year. I think there were 12 freshmen that they just plugged into the rotation almost off the bat. And, dude, I really don't know what to make out of this. I know Tyler Wall is going to be the goalkeeper. I know he's going to be back there in net. I know that he was drafted by the Rangers. I know that he had a great freshman year. He was terrible his sophomore year, and he was pretty good last year. Dude, I don't really know what to make out of all of this stuff. I know Chris Hernberg took away earned the starting spot. Here's his numbers across his first 3 seasons of playing college hockey. 37 games in his freshman season. He had a .918 save percentage with 26 wins, 10 losses, 1 tie. And he ended up helping his team to the regional final where they lost against Notre Dame. We'll talk about those guys tomorrow. And he had a goals against of .206. He was really good. And then 17-18, his sophomore year comes along, and what happened to this guy? He had an .868 save percentage. That's a drop of, let's see, from .918 down to .860. Oh, boy. He dropped 50 points. Oh, God. He didn't have a fun time of it at all. He only went 3-9, and he didn't look right. Something was off with him that season. And then last year, he splits time with Hernberg, and he looks all right. .921, which is actually his best save percentage for a season. In double the minutes of his sophomore season, still about only half of his freshman season. So don't be surprised if Wall puts up some really good showings in the new season. Don't be surprised if Lowell rides his back a bit to get back in. And you know that Norm Basin's unit is going to stick with their scheme and their strategy. And really, I think that if Lowell would have beaten BU in last year's playoffs at home, I wouldn't be surprised if they would have gone on, because they would have drawn Northeastern, which would have been a challenge, but I think they would have been equal to the task, and I think they would have given Northeastern a fight. So, as far as the other players up front, I've always been a fan. I really always have been a fan of Kenny Hausinger, but I think he's on the captaincy of this team. I've always liked him. There's a lot of younger players that I've had my questions about. Reed Stephenson is a player I like. Charlie Levesque is a player that I've always liked. But there are a lot of question marks for me. Like, can the freshmen keep up from last season with what their production was last year and continue that? Dude, I really don't know what to make out of that unit. I really don't know what to make out of Lowell. So I honestly think 6, right even, middle of the pack, is exactly the right spot. And really the only spot I think that you could reasonably have them in. Which brings me to my friends at Boston University, who are ranked 5th. And, dude, this is a frustrating program, man. Boston University has regularly brought in teams who are so unbelievably talented. The last couple years, pretty much every single season since Quinney took over in 2013-14, we'll exclude that season, but every year since 14-15, dude, the talent that they've brought in consistently has been kind of unreal. From Eichel, Greenway, McAvoy, Grizzlick, Farabee, Ottinger, the Clayton Keller, the talent that they've brought in. And there's some pieces on this current year's team who are just absolutely absurd. Just from this past year's draft, Trevor Zegras was picked 9th by Anaheim, and for good reason. Zegras is a wicked player. He'll be wearing number 13 for the Terriers this season. He comes out of the U.S. National Under-18 program, which is, wow. He was the 4th player in program history to record 100 assists. Let's see, on the 18-19 Under-18 team. Oh, wow. He had 87 points. He had 26 goals and he had 61 assists. He's going to be fun. He's going to be really, really fun for BU people to watch. He's going to be unbelievable. He's so wicked fast. He played on a bronze medal team at the U18 World Championships. And also, by the way, he had 9 assists in that tournament. He's unreal. And then other guys who are just a little bit further down. Alex Vlasic was brought in, also from the USA Underdevelopment team on the back end. Don't worry, we'll talk about all the guys that BC have brought on. It's kind of disgusting how many guys that they pulled in who were also drafted. Robert Mastromoni, Maestro Simone, I'm sorry, a second-round pick out of Detroit as well. Ethan Phillips and Cade Weber, also some new players who they brought in to bring up some more oomph. I got to talk with Albie O'Connell and at Media Day, and he said something very interesting. He believes, and I'm willing to believe him, that the defensive core all around is a significant improvement this year compared to what it was last year. That there's more people who are able to move the puck, more people who are able to break out plays, more people who are... And at first I thought, so without Dante Fabro on the back end, the blue line improved. And I'll be honest, I'm willing to believe it, because you still have Cam Crotty and David Ferentz, who are both wicked movers. And they've been... Crotty and Ferentz have been there for winning stuff. They very well could have. And I would even say that had Jake Ottinger been healthy against Michigan, they should have beaten Michigan in 2018 and gone to the Frozen Four. Whether they beat Notre Dame or Duluth is a different question entirely, but that team was poised to win that season. So I wouldn't be surprised if, and also Casper Kotkaniemi is still there. And then some of the new guys that they brought in. For example, John Copeland is 6'6". You heard me right, 6'6", $181. He will fill out as time goes on, which is a little intimidating. Sean Driscoll as well looks pretty interesting. Alex Vlasic, as stated earlier, looks really, really cool. There's some talent on this roster that, dude, this should be really fun, I think. And then that's not even counting the forwards who, by the way, they're bringing back Harper and Pat Curry, who, that's an experienced bunch of guys. That's a fun unit. That's a really, really fun and experienced unit, and those are both fan favorites. Curry and Harper are fan favorites ultimately. So, and Curry has been a regular performer over the last couple of seasons. You know, they're good players. Jack DeBoer is back and has another year under his belt. Why am I blanking? Gabe Shabbat will be another lower piece. Logan Cockrell has been here for a little bit. Ty Amonte's been here for a bit. There are some, for all the talk of BU being a one-and-done factory, which kind of, but even there have been players who've been there for a while. Even guys who've gone to the NHL, there are guys who've been there for a while. We're going to exclude Eichel and Keller because, yeah, obviously they're one and does. Jordan Greenway was there for a couple of years. So was Dante Fabro. Charlie McAvoy was there for 2 years. And I was a little bit surprised when he left after 2 seasons. But hot diggity, did he fit immediately? And hot diggity, he should have won a Stanley Cup. And I'm sorry, all Bruins fans. There have been guys who've been there for a long while. My question, as it pertains to BU, is the goaltending situation. Because here's what you have. Vinny Perpera is back. He's a sophomore now. He's a big, big guy. He's 6'6", a buck 94 in poundage. I mean, I have my questions about how he'll do. And there's also a grad transfer by the name of Sam Tucker from Yale, which I like. I saw him a couple times. I thought he was a good goalkeeper, but I don't know. I have my questions about his glove hand. It's a step down from having Jake Ottinger, which is not a fair comparison to either Vinny or to Sam Tucker. That's not a fair comparison in the slightest. So, what do I expect out of that unit? I think 5 is a fair place to put them because I think this unit has talent. I think this unit has enough pieces to be really interesting and really fun. Oh, also, they have Alex Brink online, who's another grad transfer from Brown, in his case. I'll talk about them a little bit later on, the Brown, the team he departed, the Brown Bears. I really like this BU team, and I'm trying not to allow my BU diploma to assuage my opinion on this team or to change exactly what I think of them. It's just, dude, I know exactly what the questions are going to be about BU this season. And also, for everybody who's questioning whether or not Albie is the right coach for this team, it was one season that he had, and it didn't quite work. But, dude, they were in overtime of the Hockey East semis. They were a game away from playing for the conference championship for the second year in a row. I know the total record was a step down, but how only at BU could you really be disappointed about all of that? Which is, So, while I get that last little bit of frustration out, dude, let Albie breathe. He'll be fine. Just let him play, or in his case, now let him coach. I trust Albie to get this thing going in the right direction. And he's going to have some really tough challenges ahead of him because right above in the coaches poll and in the media poll as well is Northeastern. Now, let me say for pure disclosure purposes, I had Northeastern ranked a bit higher in my own polling. I had them ranked second. I gave my first place vote to UMass, which I finally did it, guys. I gave UMass my vote. So I should have done it last year. I regret that I didn't. You're welcome now. Northeastern. Tyler Madden's back up front, and that's scary because dude really likes playing in big stages. I was really disappointed to see him not show up in Providence for the regional against Cornell. Granted, no one really showed up. That's a little bit of a pot shot. But, dude, the goal that was given up was the softest opening goal by Caden Primo in the opener. I can't let that slide. It was so unbelievably soft. Oh, we'll deal with other things later. So, pieces that are coming back this season. Well, it's a unit that's won 2 straight bean pots. That's going to gun for a third. And there's a bunch of guys who've been here for a while, like Zach Solo, who I keep hearing was a big-time scorer in the USHL in Dubuque. Dubuque. How do I actually pronounce that? I'm not sure. Feel free to just shoot me a message or something, or tag me in a tweet or something about how I pronounce the place's name, because I'm always willing to hear pronunciation tips. Anywho, so Zach Solo, Biagio, Lorario, those guys have been here. Matt Philippe, Grant Josephek, Austin Goldstein, those guys have been here, and they've been through some work, and they've put up some very solid performances. What intrigues me more is the blue line of Jordan Harris and Ryan Shea. It is a big hit on this core to not have Jeremy Davies for this season, but dude was absolutely ready to move on to the big show. And I will hear no arguments about that. Dude was ready to move on. So, God bless and love him. But that does leave a little bit of a hole on the back end. But I think that's going to be filled up, and I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem for them to fill it. Because, dude, Coach Madigan has done a really nice job of filling up open spots. And they brought on some new transfer players, namely up front, Brendan Van Riemsdyk. Size, and that's the thing. That's the one big thing, literally, that Northeastern severely lacked in their matchup against Cornell at the Dunk last year in the NCAA tournament. Which, by the way, Northeastern has gotten over a lot of historical hurdles. They've gotten over a lot of mountains. They won a conference championship in 2016. They won a second one last season. They've won 2 bean pots in 17 and 18. Dude, 2 bean pots. They hadn't won one in 30 years. Madigan has made this program a big and respectable unit. There's one tiny little addendum that still has to be made. They haven't advanced in the NCAA tournament since 1982. Advanced. Notice my formulation of it. They've actually won a tournament game since then, but even then, that was also a long time ago. 1988, in that year's NCAA hockey tournament. That year, by the way, it was Lake Superior State who ended up winning the whole thing. And so the way the bracket worked out, it was a best 2 out of 3 goal aggregate formation. So the way that ended up working itself out, the Frozen Four that year, 1988, was held in, by the way, I'll give you a moment to think about where it was, Lake Placid at the Olympic Center, because, that's pretty cool. Championship contenders, Lake Superior State and St. Lawrence. Times have changed. And St. Lawrence got ripped off in that game, by the way, too. There's a play late in that game when a Lake State player intentionally knocked the goal off the moorings to deny a St. Lawrence scoring chance. Oh, they got completely ripped off in that game. It's not even close. Anywho, so the way that tournament ended up working itself out, Northeastern and Merrimack, new in Hockey East, they ended up facing off in the tournament. And it was interesting, to put it mildly. It was a goal aggregate. Northeastern won the first game of their series at Matthews 5-3, and then they got killed 7-3 in the second game. So Merrimack ultimately won that series 10-8, which that's just kind of brutal. So, by the way, I don't like these goal aggregate series, and I'm happy that these were done away with, but that is the way that they were done back in the day. So the last time Northeastern won a game in the NCAA tournament was in 1988 when they played Merrimack and lost in their goal aggregate series 10-8 at home at Matthews Arena. The last time that Northeastern was in and advanced in the NCAA tournament was earlier that decade on what some people still refer to as the best team they ever had, 1982. In fact, Northeastern made the Frozen Four that year. It was their first, still to this date, only team that ended up advancing. They ended up facing off with Bowling Green. And also, it was a goal aggregate series. I'm very happy that these were done away with. And first game was a 2-2 draw. The second game, 3-2. By the way, this is against a Jerry York coached Bowling Green team that went into triple overtime. It's one of the it's one of the best games that no one ever really talks about, which I think is pretty interesting. Didn't mean that much because then the Frozen Four happened and Northeastern ran into North Dakota in Providence and ended up being dropped for they got beat by the eventual national champion North Dakota fighting Sioux back in the day. They were called the Sioux. This was before their name change, many, many years before their name change. So, the last time that Northeastern advanced, and actually still the only time that they have yet advanced in the NCAA tournament was 1982. It's been a while, and Madigan and his staff and the players who've gone through there still haven't gotten that part done. And I think this is the year that they have to win a game in the tournament, which I hope they do. I really hope for their sake that they do. I love that staff. I love that collection of players that they have. I adore that building. There isn't much that I dislike about Northeastern, which I think is semi-blasphemous as a BU alum. But, I mean, partly my buddy Tim, 1. And 2, I don't have much reason to hate them. I might, because they've knocked us out in the last 2 bean pots, and they dispatched us in overtime in last year's Hockey East Championship. Look, I'm trying to like people. Sorry, BC. I'm trying to like people here, man. I don't want to dislike our unit. Goodness. Anywho, so moving on from Northeastern, who, guys, get it done, make some noise in the tournament. We get Providence, and Providence is interesting because there was a hell of a lot of turnover from last year's team to this year's team, which was a Frozen 14 that got upset kind of unceremoniously by BC in the NCAA tournament. And I like some of the things that they have this season. Ben Mirages is still here. Patrick Moynihan is still here. Jack Dugan is still here. I really do like some of these pieces who are coming back. Michael Callahan looked really nice last year. He's an Arizona draft pick. I think there's some really interesting pieces to enjoy on this team. I wonder how it fits. Tice Thompson also, for a lot of last season, looked like dynamite. And the 4th-round pick of the Devils in this past draft, I should say. I really would not be surprised if he takes another big step this year. Vimasa Kumaran is another player who will be on there for depth scoring purposes, and I loved him in that role last year, and I think I'll really like watching him in that role again this year. Greg Prince, same kind of deal. And I am not sure what exactly to make of their Davis Buns, by the way, on their blue line in sort of a similar old guy guiding roles. My big question is in net, where let me temper my thoughts on this for a moment by saying that there are 4 goalkeepers on the Providence roster. Gabe Malott-Hill was a junior and was a backup to Hayden Hockey, which, by the way, best name in college hockey is now in the pros. Bye-bye, Hayden. You had the best name for the sport that has ever existed. I will miss it, sincerely. There's 2 other players who will be in the running for 2 other goaltenders on the roster. Jake Charsky from Erie, Pennsylvania, played for the Omaha Lancers, who was a 7th-round pick by Carolina in the 18 draft. Was ranked decently highly. He won a silver medal in the World Junior A Challenge, where his save percentage was a .934. He appeared in 9 games last season with the Omaha Lancers and won 8 of them. Dude's a winner. Dude is at least interesting. Dude's also not small. He's 6'4". And then there's Michael Lackey. And you guys will recall me saying many things, mostly good things about him growing into his role at Harvard last year, and he decided to use the grad transfer rule to go to Providence. And yeah, I like him. I like his movement. I like the fact that he could steal some games when he got comfortable. He got lit up like a Christmas tree against UMass last season in the NCAA tournament, but to be fair, they did the same thing to Notre Dame too, and also UMass was really good last year. So I still like Lackey to fill in. I would expect them to give Lackey the starting job on opening night when they end up facing Maine at 4 p.m. at Schneider, which is the first Hockey East game, which I believe is the only actual conference game to open things up for the new season, I don't think. Yeah, that's the only game between conference foes to open the season, which is, I'll admit, it's a little aggressive, but, I mean, yeah, sure, whatever. Let's just go with that. So, yeah, I would not be surprised in the slightest to see Lackey take the opening spot. Also, keep an eye out for Max Crozier on the back end. He's from Calgary. He was a 4th-round pick of Tampa. And truthfully, if you're drafted by Tampa, I am willing to believe that they know more about developing and having an eye for talent than most other teams, even with Stevie Yzerman going back to Detroit. That Tampa staff knows exactly what they're looking for, and they know how to get skilled players who can move the puck, who can see the ice. So I'd watch for Max Crozier on that Providence blue line. So I think it's a perfect ranking where they are. And now the last two teams, UMass Lowell. Now for the last two teams, UMass Amherst and Boston College. Full disclosure, I had BC ranked significantly lower in my laying out of where I thought all the teams were going to be. I had them ranked about 4th or 5th. I had them ranked 4th. I had BU ranked 5th. I'm sorry, guys, BU. I have way too many questions for BU. I feel like I'm committing some form of blasphemy or treason by having BU be ranked a little bit lower than BC, but I just have to tell the truth. I, of course, had UMass picked 1. By the way, UMass took the top spot in the took the top spot in the media poll. Providence took the second spot with 6 first-place votes for UMass, 3 for Providence. Actually, 6 first-place votes for BC in the media poll as well, but fewer overall points than what Providence got, so they slipped to 3, and Northeastern 1 first-place vote. They go 4th. And some person, I don't know who this person is, but some person in the Hockey East media circuit voted for UMass Lowell, and they finished 6th in the media poll. I don't know who that is, but I think that gives you a sense of there isn't a consensus of who the most talented or the best teams. Like there isn't a consensus for, yes, this team or this collection of teams should run the gambit. Because I don't think there is one clear dominant powerhouse in the way. For much of the 2010s, BC ran the freaking show. And that was just the natural order of things. Those days aren't here right now, or they aren't here now or more, which, by the way, I'm just going to touch on very briefly a question that I got from my listing that I put in the college hockey subreddit, in which I asked if people had any questions. And we'll jump in, and I guess we'll talk about BC right now. This is from Muffler Monday. I haven't met this person ever, but do you expect BC's freshman class to make an impact right away, or will the team start down where they were last season and take a while to build up? How long could that build up take? Thank. No, they typed thank. They didn't put an S on it. I'll just presume that was a typo. I've said that BU is kind of a frustrating program throughout the years. I don't think BU and their frustration holds a candle to what BC has been in terms of frustration to their own fans and own people over the last 3 seasons, because each and every single one of the last 3 BC hockey teams should have been in the NCAA tournament and very possibly was talented enough to reach the Frozen Four, if not win the national championship. I mean, each and every single one of them. Joseph Woll, God love the man, he was completely wasted for a lot of those, especially last season, because BC's talent level was not a 7 seed. That team was not a 7 seed. So, each and every single one of the last 3 BC teams should have been in the NCAA tournament on just their talent level. If you're going to consider that for why they should be in the tournament, then there's, how many teams could you rank ahead of them? There's whatever Duluth is doing. There's Denver. There's BU. That's kind of it. Wisconsin this year. We'll talk about them tomorrow. But, dude, BC, each and every single one of these years, has pulled in enough talent to make any human being entirely jealous. And it just hasn't come together or worked, that's not the normal hallmark of a BC team under Jerry York. They've always worked. They've always had inordinate chemistry that made them... Look, Johnny Gaudreau was an amazing talent. Johnny Gaudreau put on a line with Hayes and Arnold because those guys knew how the others worked was terrifying, and for 3 years was the best line in college hockey. That line was scary, not just because they had all sorts of talent, but because they had the personalities that really meshed. And I don't know if that if that mix has just been lacking. I don't know if the coaching staff has just run into some problems. I don't know if there's something off internally in that program. I don't know what exactly to make of BC other than, dude, their talent is unreal. And, dude, it's really frustrating watching that team if you're a BC person. Because based off of where every bit of this talent is coming from, this should be a team that's regularly going deep, that very well could and he almost should be playing in April. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some internal questions that are being asked of this team. And as to the actual question of how much of an impact I think the freshman class will make, I look at this talent again and I think this is pretty scary, because of the first rounders who were picked in this year's draft, 3 of them are BC commits. Matthew Boldy, who was picked number 12 by Minnesota, Spencer Knight, who's a goalkeeper who was picked by the Panthers, and Alex Newhook, who was picked by Colorado. He's a center. 3 of those guys are now at Chestnut Hill. And there's some other guys like Marshall Warren is also from the U.S. development team. He's a defenseman, a lefty, also from Laurel Howell, New York, which is I think something that's kind of interesting. Boldy from Millis, Massachusetts. I mean, dude, I look at Boldy's numbers and there's some. My God, he played in 64 games. He had 33 goals. He had 84 assists. That's 4th on a team that had people like Jack Hughes. That's unbelievable. They get so much talent. Apelli Rasanen is still here. Logan Hutsko, who I hope he's recovered. I really do hope he's recovered. He's still here. I really like the way that he's played throughout his time. If Hutsko wants to take over a game, he absolutely could do so. So, Graham McPhee and Ron Greco have been here for a while. Patrick Gillies is in his 2nd year. The Matulas, Jesper, who's on the blue line, and Julius also still here. I mean, this team, talent-wise, should be a match for anybody, and I wonder if it fits and works. So my big concern, talent-wise, is kind of with some of the older players. Like, I wonder how well Zach Walker and David Cotton will be able to keep up with some of these young, really, really fast scoring guys coming up behind them. I wonder how Connor Moore and Jesper Matila will. Well, a little bit less with Matila, but I just wonder how they'll fit. I mean, BC almost played in the NCAA tournament off of winning the Hockey East Championship, or they almost beat Northeastern for the Hockey East Championship last season. And I think that team got significantly better, and I can't help but feel like that team will... I can't help but feel like that team is going to look at their performances over the past years and think it's unacceptable. Because, in truth, if I'm in BC's administration, I'm looking at their starts the last couple of seasons and thinking it is unacceptable. Because it is. You can't lose 7-0 to St. Cloud. You can't get thoroughly embarrassed by people. You can't struggle as much as they did. You can't go almost 2 years without winning an out-of-conference hockey game. I'm going to say that again. They went 2 years without winning an out-of-conference game. It took until the Beanpot. That's unfreaking real. They have a tough challenge. They open up by hosting Wisconsin, a game which I'm going to be at, by the way. And then they go to Colgate, which, I'm sorry, guys, I don't like a lot of the talent on that Colgate team. But, that drive to Hamilton is not fun. And then they go to Denver, which, oh boy, and then they host Providence, and then they go to UNH. There's a lot of fighting that they're going to have to do pretty early on. So, to answer the question about, sorry, I lost track of it. Do I expect the freshman class to make an impact right away? Ultimately, I think yes. I think that they'll have some. I think they'll have something to do with some winning early on. I wouldn't be surprised if they drop the game to Wisconsin. I look for them to show off a lot early on. I think the big question, there's a follow-up comment that there's a lot of people who are wondering what that goaltending situation is going to look like, and I agree. There's 3 goalies on the roster: Ryan Edquist, Jack Moffat, and Spencer Knight. Edquist, he was the backup to Wall his whole time. I think that York is going to give him the starting spot, but I think it's very, very clear that Spencer Knight is going to be the goalkeeper for BC for some time. If it's 1, if it's 2 years after this, I really do think that Knight, and if Edquist falters, which I wonder if he will, I don't know if he will, but I think they give Edquist the starting spot early because York is an old school guy. Ty goes to the upperclassmen. So unless Knight has overwhelmed people in workouts and overwhelmed the staff in preseason work, I think that spot goes to Edquist, because even when he was sitting on the backup stool for 3 years behind Joe Wall, I always was impressed by Edquist when he actually got to play. So don't be surprised if he actually gets to jump in. I mean, last year he didn't have a great season, but he only played 3 games. He only had a .844 save percentage. He was a .923 his freshman season, a .916 his second season. Again, only 8 and 9 games respectively. But I would give him the starting spot and see how he does early on. I wonder how short a leash he will have, but if that falters, the job goes to Knight, and he'll be the guy that will have to determine the long-term impact of that freshman class. But as far as the skaters and the defensemen that they brought in, Mitch Andrews, Marshall Warren, Drew Hellison, I don't see why they couldn't make an impact really quickly. I, in fact, expect that they will. And I expect to show off their talents. As far as how it will affect wins and losses, dude, college hockey is a complete crapshoot in some ways. You throw things in and you see who survives and how things mix up and end up working out in the long haul, because you're going to have to wait and see on that one, I guess. It's a much longer answer than what I was expecting to give. Really sorry about how long that one took. And we have one last team in Hockey East to go through, which is the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Well, the University of Massachusetts Minutemen. We'll go with that so I can appease my UMass friends. And they bring back some players. Okay, they don't bring back Cale Makar, but every single human who was watching him knew that he was ready to leave after his second season. He could have left if he wanted to after his first season. Coming back and playing last year was just... Dude was an NHL player from opening whistle to the end of the day in Buffalo. He's the most talented player outside of maybe Jack Eichel I've ever seen at the college level. Makar was scary. So him leaving is not a surprise. Mario Ferraro leaving is a giant surprise in my estimation. So I'll miss watching him play in Mullins. So that's the one that actually surprises me. But there's still Mark Del Gaizo and Ty Farmer coming back on that blue line are going to be wicked. I don't really see what there is to dislike about that unit coming back. Zach Jones is a player, dude. I mean, he was drafted, I think, 3rd round. Yeah, he continues the line of guys who were drafted. Yeah, Zach Jones picked in the 3rd round by the Rangers. Jake McLaughlin, who was an unsung hero on that back end. I mean, I think there will be some drop-off, and I wonder if there will be any championship hangover, but I can't imagine Coach Carville is going to let his guys slack.
I can't imagine that he's going to let his guys slack much, if at all. And up front, dude, Johnny Leonard's terrifying. John Leonard is one guy who, there's a couple guys like this throughout college, like Alex Turcotte, for example, who I'll talk more about tomorrow. Johnny's terrifying. He's capable of putting you on the highlight reel whenever he damn well pleases to. So, yeah, watch for him. Mitchell Chafee is also still here. Oliver Chow is still wicked. Jake Gadet is still here. Philip Lagunov. Really, the guys from the junior class are still here and are still just, wow, they're skaters. Wow, they're puck movers. Wow, they can shoot. And wow, they can score. Nico Hildenbrand is still here. He's still wearing the C. Like, dude, there's not going to be much drop for UMass. There really isn't going to be much of a drop in the slightest. This is going to be a scary, scary, scary team to watch. So, yeah, I would expect that whole unit to come back, and I would expect nothing short of just full-on and complete domination out of that UMass roster, because holy freaking crap, that team is so talented. It's not really fair in the slightest. So yeah, that's what I would expect. That's what I think they'll end up doing. That's what I think. So my, by the way, my preseason poll for Hockey East, ultimately I had UMass going number 1. I gave Northeastern my second place spot, Providence my 3. I put BC 4. I put BU 5. I put Lowell. No, I put UConn 6. Actually, I put Lowell at 7. I put UNH because there was nowhere else to put them. Maine, Vermont, and Merrimack in that order in Hockey East. And while I'm just looking at the timer right now, realizing how long I spent on all the Hockey East schools, because that is the conference I cover the most. That's the conference I know the most. It's the conference I grew up in and the one that made me a college hockey fan. I haven't left a lot of time for the ECAC, but hell, we're going to go through it right now anyway. So, this is kind of an interesting thing because there's a similar sort of formula for how the whole unit is going to shape itself out. So, the preseason poll. Let's do a similar thing. Let's do it a little bit faster. The bottom of it. Let's just knock these bottom teams out of the way first. St. Lawrence is universally picked in last. I'm so sorry, St. Lawrence. I genuinely feel really, really, really bad for this team because, dude, this shouldn't be that disappointing. This team shouldn't be this far down. But this is one of the worst teams. When I watched them in Las Vegas last year, dude, St. Lawrence is so bad. It's just, I feel for that school and for Appleton being a beautiful place that they just didn't have any. And they had a tough offseason again. I'm sorry, St. Lawrence. So, yeah, they are well down in the rankings. Colgate, yeah, same kind of deal. Sorry, guys. Princeton, that brief window of really winning stuff is gone. I'm sorry, dudes. Kuffner and that whole scoring unit is gone. RPI, watch for Owen Savory. Really, watch for Owen Savory. That unit is really nice. That guy in that, I don't be surprised if he wins them some games and makes like Stefanos Lekis. Beyond that, sorry, guys. Union is at 8, which is kind of interesting because I actually really like Union. It's kind of a similar deal there at 8. This is, again, the middle is all pretty talented stuff. There is a difference between the bottom rankings of the ECAC, the middle, and the very top of it. I don't think there's much of a gap between 1 to like number 5 or 4 or so, which, by the way, 8 is Union, which don't be surprised if they make some noise. Number 7 is Brown, which, yeah, I really like these guys. I've always enjoyed that building. Please get more people in your building. Just get more humans going to your games. Those players deserve to really play. Luke Chris, for example, is on that roster. He is the
younger brother of Chad Chris, who's also currently playing in the minors right now. So good for they've started recruiting some players. Tony Stillwell is still here. Justin Jalen, Zach Jatari. They brought back a lot of players who there's not a lot of gap down from these guys to from other guys in the ECAC or other guys who are playing in other bits of college hockey. I think it's an overlooked program because, dude, it's Cornell. Excuse me. Wow, it's Brown, and there's no real clear history or tradition of winning here. But I don't think that you can allow that to be an excuse for not winning. I don't think you can. So my question is whether the goaltending can hold up. And Gavin Nieto and Luke Kania are back in net, which I like both these players. I hope they can both do well. Trey Dodd is a nice player to watch. Some decent speed, some good size, or some good toughness, I should say. Alec Mayer will be back around for another season, and I really like Brendan Whitted. He's very matter of fact. He's very he's pretty even keel and pretty even handed with how he deals with his players. Jason Guerrero I like as an associate head coach, and Jason Smith I think has done a good job as an assistant. I wouldn't be surprised if this Brown team pulls some upsets. I mean, they got killed when they went to Lake Placid, but they did make it there. So I wouldn't be surprised if this unit makes some noise. Yale at number 6. Sam Tucker's no longer here. He has transferred to BU. But Yale's in kind of a similar spot to our friends at Brown, but there is at least some bit of tradition of winning. Jack St. Ivany is a fun player on that blue line, so pay attention to him. Michael Young, I think, will be pretty nice melding in with that unit as well. Billy Sweezy, I didn't think I was going to like watching him play that much, but yeah, it was pretty good. Robbie DeMontis, same kind of deal. I think he's a really cool skater and a really fun individual to pay attention to and watch. I think that there's some talent here. I think it's just a question of how it all fits, and I don't know. So I think 6 is probably about as fine a spot as you can put them. Same kind of place for Brown. And then Dartmouth. Yeah, because we threw 4 Ivy League schools all together in a row right here. And, Dartmouth is... I thought they would overperform a little bit last year. I thought that they would do slightly better than what they did last year, but truthfully, I think there's some fun players here. They got a first-place vote in... By the way, so here's how the media polling broke down. Cornell got 13 of the first-place votes, including mine. Quinnipiac went number 3. They got 1. Clarkson went number 2. They didn't get any. Harvard got 1 first-place vote, and Dartmouth got 1 first-place vote. That was from my buddy Jason Scales. You're welcome, Dartmouth. So, yeah, there's some good players coming back, and how the preseason all-conference team broke down. Morgan Barron of Cornell, Odin Tufto of Quinnipiac, and Harold Eggle of Clarkson got the first-place spots. Riley Walsh of Harvard and Yanni Caldas of Cornell got the defensive spots, and Matt Galeta got the juniors. He is a junior. He got the 12 votes for the top spot in net. That's just how the stuff broke down. Now, as for the players to be paying attention to on Dartmouth, Daniel Warpeka is pretty fun. Shane Seller, I always had a good time watching. Cam Strong and Matt Baker, I think, are pretty cool. Quinn Foreman and Drew O'Connor. Pay attention to these guys for all-conference performers in the ECAC. And Will Graber, too. I think these guys should be pretty fun. Question. Adrian Clark and Justin Ferguson and Dean Schatzer have an interesting goaltending situation to sort out amongst themselves, but I
think there's enough there to figure out something and to make it a competitive run. So best of luck to you guys. Harvard. Oh, Harvard, they were stung by some pieces leaving when they were not expected to be exiting, because every single human watching that team could tell from 50 miles away that Adam Fox was going to depart after last season. The only reason why you thought maybe he won't is because he wasn't going to sign in Carolina. He wanted to go somewhere else, and he got lucky to be traded to the Rangers. And that's his hometown team, and that's at Madison Square Garden. And, of course, he's going to depart after he makes that trade. So preparing for life without Adam Fox, even though it was a little bit more abrupt than what was initially expected, I think that one is one you can easily prepare for. On the other hand, John Marino left very late in the summer and was a very surprising departure. So, yeah, what the hell do you do with that? Guys, don't worry. Harvard will be fine. Harvard brought in some good players to fill some openings on that D-line. Riley Walsh and Jack Rathbone are still here. Ben Foley is still here. There's Jace Foskey is a kid from South Lake, Texas, who looks pretty interesting on that blue line as well. And then Nick Abruzzese of Slade Hill, New York, looks really nice on that forward line. He's a skilled scorer. Jack Drury is back for another round. Baker Shore is back for another round. Henry Bowlby and Jack Bedini are also back. Guys, don't worry. Your goaltending, on the other hand, see how that works itself out. Though Mitchell Gibson is a pretty fun player to pay attention to. I think he will eventually be the goalkeeper, if not maybe pretty quickly, because Derek Shading, sorry, dude. I don't know what much to expect out of you. And kind of the same thing for Cam Gornett, who did a very admirable job filling in for Lackey, but I think it's pretty clear that Gibson is going to be their guy moving forward in that net spot. So I don't think there'll be actually that much of a drop-off for Harvard not having Adam Fox or John Marino this year. Maybe it takes them a little bit to get their act together, but no, I wouldn't worry about them. Quinnipiac at number 3. Yeah, that's probably fair. It's probably a little bit ranked off of where they finished last season, and I wonder if they're able to keep that going. I honestly have my doubts, but yeah, I think Petrozelli will do well. I think Odin Tufto coming back is a big keep, but they're in my wouldn't be surprised if they slip a fair bit, but there's time to tell. Clarkson. Harold Zegel is still here. Some of their forwards are still here. Jake Kiley is gone, so that's terrifying to the nice people up in the North Country. But don't worry, you guys will beat up on St. Lawrence. I mean, everyone will beat up on St. Lawrence. But yeah, have fun, Clarkson. I hope you guys make the tournament again. I like you guys. So yeah, and Cornell. I think that they are, other than Duluth, the easiest conference favorites out of anyone in the nation, because they were a game away from the Frozen Four, and they were beat up to hell and back. Dude, that Cornell team, yeah, they'll be here. They'll be around for the foreseeable future, as they've always been. They've always been a piece to be reckoned with. They've always been, yeah, they'll be here. They'll be here for a nice, good, long while, and they're going to be fun. Yanni Caldas, low-key, pay attention to him for an All-American award, honestly. I think that he'll take a much bigger spot in that rotation. I don't be surprised if he has a big piece in that. Bo Starrett and Noah Bald being older players. Kyle Betts a year under his belt. Mitch Vanderland, I think kind of a similar deal. Don't be surprised for him to make a little bit more noise for himself. Matt Galeta actually being healthy now. All respect in the world to Austin McGrath, who filled in very, very admirably and did well against Providence, but just didn't get a lot of help from the rest of his unit. I mean, dude, this Cornell team is really talented. This Cornell team is really good and really fun. Actually, let me amend myself for a second. Mitch Vanderland was on last year's team. So, yeah, dude, don't be surprised if this unit is Vanderland is not on this team anymore. I was reading the roster from last year, so I'm sorry for sounding like an idiot. All the other guys, all those other guys are back. So, yeah, Cornell is going to be really fun. They're going to be really scary for all the other ECAC teams to go into. It's never fun to go into Lina unless you're a Cornell player, and then it's heaven. But it's never fun to go into that building. It's never fun to play that team. They play physical. They play to beat you up. They play to their identity, and I think they're going to do so again. All right, and let's briefly touch on how Atlantic hockey is gonna go, and I'm just gonna harp on how times they are changing, because Air Force has been a perennial powerhouse in that conference. It's picked to finish 6th. You heard that correctly. They picked to finish 6th. They got 60 points out of the preseason votes, which, okay. I remember that team only a couple years ago beating both Western Michigan and nearly beating Harvard. And I also remember that team knocking out St. Cloud and also giving Duluth a decent enough fight. So, But all right, so Air Force is only going to finish 6th. RIT is picked to finish 5th, which I believe I like the skill that they have. We have a tie for 3rd between Sacred Heart and Bentley. Bentley, who was the only team to get a first-place vote other than American International College. Which, yes, you heard me correctly, American International College is predicted to finish in 1st place. This is after they had their best season in the history of the program by a country mile last year. I really hope that they're able to put people in their building to cheer on that team that won, because that place feels empty. It's not a big school. It's not a big school at AIC, and I understand that. But, dude, you have to fill that place up. And I really, really hope they do, because that team is pretty fun and pretty good. Don't waste what you have there, guys. Fill that place to the freaking rafters. Just jam that place up into oblivion is what I'm hoping for. I'll be really disappointed if you don't end up doing so. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. I haven't put a ton of thought into what I think out of Atlantic hockey. The top team that will come out of there, I genuinely think will give whoever they play a decent enough fight. It's almost certainly going to be Duluth, who will be the number 1 seed in the tournament this year, which, have as much fun with that as you possibly can, guys. But, AIC does have some real talent coming back. I love Blake Christensen. I love watching him skate. I love watching him move. I really like Austin Albrecht, who's a transfer student from the University of Massachusetts, from Flemington, New Jersey, who will get some more playing time out in Springfield. I like Janice Jacks. I like Nate Hooper. I love Zacharias Skog. Partly, dude, his name is Zacharias Skog. That name is awesome. I like Hugo Reinhardt. I like some of these players that they have. So I would not put it past AIC to make some noise once they make it to the NCAA tournament. If they make the NCAA tournament, because they're still going to have to get through Niagara, who's predicted to do decently, Bentley and Sacred Heart. Don't sleep on Atlantic hockey, and I really, really hope that those teams can put on a show for us. I really hope they can. We're going to have to wait and find out and see what will end up happening, though. So, for a longer edition of Puck University, thank you so very much for tuning in and for listening. Thank you for continuing to support me and for supporting the sport, which we clearly love so much. This is a beautiful time of year. We're just about ready to end this long national nightmare and get back into actually playing hockey. You can find this show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, and Blog Talk Radio. You can follow me at CC Lynch Wall. You can follow this show at University Puck on both Twitter and Instagram. By the way, my Twitter feed is at CC Lynch Wall. My IG feed is at CC Lynch 16. You can follow me at all of those sites. Pick your teams, and may your program have as much luck as humanly possible in the upcoming season. Thank you so very much for listening. Thank you so very much for enjoying the sound of my melodious voice. Best of luck to you, all of your teams and your programs. And in the words of my friend Tim Williams, keep your head up and your hits clean.